Hi guys, how many stories of successful Indian women do we know who are absolutely killing it in their fields? Even Google is tired of showing me the same names when I asked it this question. Indra Nooyi, Falguni Nair, they walked so a new generation of women leaders can run. It's time we hear and share their stories. In today's episode, let me show you why Bhavya Misra, CHRO of Lenovo India, is hashtag career goals. We'll start with the rapid fire. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, Bhavya, what's the biggest misconception that people have about your role or HR in general?
Okay, let's go with HR and
Mhm.
maybe I'll go with two misconceptions.
Mhm.
First one is I think people think that HR people will not understand business or will not be good with numbers.
Mhm.
Nothing could be farther from the truth. The second one I think is also that people feel like HR people are these sympathetic, warm, cuddly teddy bears. I
Yeah.
think that's well people are we are empathetic, but
Mhm.
like I said, I mean we are much beyond that,
Yeah.
and there is great value to be added. So that
Yeah.
also I think is a misconception.
Awesome. Bhavya, what pushes you out of your comfort zone?
I think just challenging assignments, things that I've never done before,
Mhm.
and also a good intellectual argument.
Awesome. I think that's rare, but I think that's cool. Okay. Um, Bhavya, how do you build working relationships? Not necessarily friendships, but just general relationships in the workplace, so be it with your seniors or with colleagues, clients, etc.
I think that has to be through the value that you add, right? It
Mhm.
has to be through what are you bringing to the table?
Mhm.
What is it that you're credible for? What is your
Mhm.
capability? I
Yeah.
think that's what, actually helps build deep relationships and not friendships, right? Because it
Yeah.
is eventually about what value are you adding to their work, to their lives.
For sure. Um, what's been your biggest learning till date in your entire career span?
I think I would say that resilience and perseverance are
Yeah,
very important.
that's true. That's true. Um, if you could just do one part of your job for the rest of your life, what would that be?
That's actually a difficult one because everything is linked. But I would say
Mhm.
if I still have to pull it out, I would say just connecting with employees, trying to understand what is it that we can do
Uh-huh.
with them. I think that's the part that I enjoy the most
Yeah.
personally.
Lovely. Great. And what's been your most memorable experience at Lenovo and then also at PepsiCo?
I think Lenovo I've spent the last 1.5 years in. Uh,
Mhm.
I think my most memorable times have been the times that I've spent with my team,
Mhm.
as well as with my colleagues in the leadership team. And
Mhm.
we've done a few offsites, etc., which I've really enjoyed because I got to know the real people
Yeah.
and their
Mhm.
talents. So that's the part that I've enjoyed here.
Uh-huh.
From a PepsiCo standpoint, many, many years, so too many memories. But what comes to mind actually is a role that I did many years back. I did this role where I was leading campus
Mhm.
initiatives
Mhm.
for PepsiCo, and I used to go out a lot across different campuses, interacting with students. That was my job, and
Mhm.
believe it or not, I got paid for that, right? So I really enjoyed that. I think interacting with students is an amazing experience.
That does sound like a lot of fun. So I'm glad you had that
Yeah,
experience.
thanks.
So Bhavya, give me just a one-word response for the following. Massive layoffs in tech,
Unfortunate,
moonlighting,
controversial.
quiet quitting.
Needs to be addressed.
What's your best tip for the following? So for those who are job hunting,
Don't be in a hurry and don't undersell yourself.
yeah, I think that's a common one. That really is a common one.
Yeah.
Um, your best tip for those who are new to networking.
You can go deeper. Networking is not just about hi, hello, and just trying to get people's names. I think it's all about what's the value that you're bringing to the table? Why are you building that relationship? And going one level deeper. Don't think of it as just, casually getting to know people. That's not it. I think networks that last for a period of time go deeper
Mm-hmm.
than
Right.
just meeting at casual occasions and saying hi, hello, etc.
Right.
So I think be in it for the long term. See what is it that you're giving and what is it that you're also gaining from the other person. So be
Right.
willing to invest in building.
Mm-hmm. Right. That means so networking is technically, it could be for introverts, extroverts. It's really not limited to a certain type of personality, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think, exactly. I think that's a myth that it's for extroverts, etc. I don't think it's like that at all. I think the only thing is that, and it's a part of the word networking. It takes
Mm-hmm.
work. It's
Yeah.
not easy. It's not going to happen. It's just because you're an extroverted personality doesn't naturally mean that you have a good network that you can actually leverage.
Right.
Because it's not just about knowing a lot of people. It's also
Mm-hmm.
about knowing the right set of people and also being
Yeah.
able to leverage that network when you need it, and also being
Mm-hmm.
there to support the other set of
Yeah.
people. So when
Yep.
you're doing it, don't
Mm-hmm.
think that, how is it that I will, be able to help, but over a period of time, invest in that relationship. And,
Yeah.
at the end of it, automatically there will be a good give and take, but you
Right.
can't start with that.
Exactly. Exactly. And finally, what's your best tip for someone who's looking for a mentor?
Again, find or choose the mentor for the right reason.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that the person can help you with? Don't just go for a famous person or a person who's really senior. I
Mm-hmm.
think reflect on what is it that you need at this stage in your career, and what
Mm-hmm.
value that the other person can add.
Yeah. We'll move into a slightly deeper section of this episode where we dive deep into your learnings, your journey, what your career has been like. So why don't we just start from the very beginning, right? So from being a physics major and then doing an MBA in HR. So why don't you just walk us through your journey and what really motivated you to get started in HR?
To start off, I mean, I was a proper science nerd right in school. And that's when I took up physics. And in fact, I didn't even want to do like engineering. I wanted to do pure physics, and which is
Uh-huh.
where I started out in Stevens. But then I think choosing HR after that, if I had to be really honest, I think it was a lot of my instinct. While I did a bit of research, talked to people, but I think eventually I went with what I felt I would do well in and what I would be good at. So,
Uh-huh.
at a very basic level, it was instinctive, though I
Mm-hmm.
did do a bit of research and, talked to seniors, talked to also some people who were there in the corporate while I was in my undergrad. So I
Uh-huh.
think that was really the starting point. And once I started, when I went to MDI, of course, I've just been lucky all through. So I did, my summers with the Aditya Birla Group,
Mm-hmm.
which was a great experience. And
Right.
then, right after campus, I joined PepsiCo, a
Mm-hmm.
great organization. And over the years, just got to do such a wide variety of jobs, and
Yeah.
to interact with such a wide variety of people, both internally as well as externally. And
Uh-huh.
what really personally helped me over the years was that there were always people you could reach out to,
Mm-hmm.
from a guidance perspective,
Yeah.
also from an opening up perspective. When you're having issues, there would always be people who would be willing to listen,
Yeah.
understand, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily tell you what to do, but ask
Mm-hmm.
you the right questions.
Yeah.
And I think from a career perspective, it really helps
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of us who may not necessarily come from families where our parents are able to give us career advice, like both my parents worked in the government sector, not really completely relating to how our work is or what the scenarios are. They can give you life advice but may
Yeah.
not be day to day career advice. I think it really helps to have friends at work. It really helps to have guides,
Mm-hmm.
mentors at work. And I
Yeah.
think PepsiCo gave me a lot of that, a
Mm-hmm.
very rich network. And I
Yeah.
think over the years, it really helped me, did a wide variety of roles, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and met some very interesting people, never had the urge to leave, which is why, every time I even thought that, okay, should I look at something else? Even before
Uh-huh.
that, there was some other opportunity. Because
Mm-hmm.
normally, and I mean, all the literature that you read about quitting or, going for different jobs, what are the reasons? The reasons would be that you're not happy with the work itself. It's not giving you, it's not value adding to you, or
Right.
that you feel you're not paid enough, or that you feel that you're not getting along with people around you. You don't
Yeah.
have the right support system. I
Mhm.
think many of those reasons were not there, and hence, yeah, I didn't really logically feel the need
Yeah.
about. But then I spent a long time there, and then I realized, if I don't explore something different, I'm
Mhm.
just going to spend my life here, which is not bad. But
Yeah.
then I felt that, I want to learn something different, which is why
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go to another FMCG because I'd kind of seen that inside out.
Yeah.
But I thought like tech is something that I really need to understand more of.
Yeah.
And just my background, right? I was not a techie. I mean, I was not an engineer, etc. So I thought that this is something that I know nothing about and is so
Yeah.
relevant in today's time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Everything that's happening, which is of value, is one way or another related to technology.
Yep.
And I thought of moving to a tech organization. Lenovo happened, and I came in here. And of course, the role was great, which
Mhm.
is that I had to head the HR function for India. So yeah, it's been a good journey. I think I've like I was saying earlier, I've been persistent, resilient, but also been very lucky, uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
over the years. So that's how I would look back and reflect on my journey.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's wonderful that you attribute a lot of it to luck as well, because it's just you being very grounded, I guess. um, but you mentioned that you spent all these many years at PepsiCo, right? So I'm just wondering that.
I've just been lucky all through. So I did, my summers with the Aditya Birla Group,
Mhm.
which was a great experience. And
Right.
then, right after campus, I joined PepsiCo, a
Mhm.
great organization. And over the years, just got to do such a wide variety of jobs, and
Yeah.
to interact with such a wide variety of people, both internally as well as externally. But then I spent a long time there, and then I realized, if I don't explore something different, I'm
Mhm.
just going to spend my life here, which is not bad. But
Yeah.
then I felt that, I want to learn something different, which is why
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go to another FMCG because I'd kind of seen that inside out.
Yeah.
But I thought like tech is something that I really need to understand more of.
Yeah.
And just my background, right? I was not a techie. I mean, I was not an engineer, etc. So I thought that this is something that I know nothing about and is so
Yeah.
relevant in today's time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Everything that's happening, which is of value, is one way or another related to technology.
Yep.
And I thought of moving to a tech organization. Lenovo happened, and I came in here. And of course, the role was great, which
Mhm.
is that I had to head the HR function for India. So yeah, it's been a good journey. I think I've like I was saying earlier, I've been persistent, resilient, but also been very lucky, uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
over the years. So that's how I would look back and reflect on my journey.
I'm just wondering that I feel like, especially in the last couple of years, it's almost, one could say, as a trend that a lot of the younger generation tends to hop from one job to another. So, do you feel like there's a specific duration that a certain employee should spend in an organization, or it's pretty much okay to jump ship?
I do feel that unless you spend a significant amount of time in one place, right,
Mhm.
actually pretty much never see things through. You can, you get into a place and you kind of evaluate the place, you understand the place teaches you a lot. You
Mhm.
launch some initiatives irrespective of the function that you're in. You do
Mhm.
things, you launch things, but you kind of never see whether those things work, they don't
Mhm.
work, or what parts of it work.
Mhm.
Understanding of the workplace of your work is fairly superficial if you move around fast.
Yeah. Mhm.
The other aspect is that it's always important to also see organizations in different cycles, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes a company will do well, then there'll be another phase where there'll be headwinds, the company will not do well. What's happening through different phases? How's the
Right.
organization reacting? What are you doing? What's the impact
Mhm.
on your work? So there is, like I said, value in seeing things through and understanding that
Mhm.
situations that make you uncomfortable are also the situations that make you learn the most.
Yeah.
Every
Yep.
time there's an uncomfortable situation or something that doesn't work, if you end up giving an interview or looking out, then
Mhm.
I'm not sure that cumulatively over the years, while you would have gathered a lot of experience,
Mhm.
you actually learn,
Yeah.
at a deeper
Mhm.
level.
Right.
So that's how I look at it personally, and that's how
Yeah.
I also treated my own career. So I would
Mhm.
say that that's the same way that I would suggest others to look
Yeah.
at it.
No, that makes total sense. And I'm going to go back a little bit to, again, the start of the career bit for a bit. So can you just maybe outline a little bit like what a fresher's role looks like? And is there some kind of an average career path that, any and every HR professional will kind of go through?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Nitya. And I think, the rules of career paths have completely been rewritten, I think, in current times. Traditionally, and I mean, at least my past organization, right? I come from an FMCG. And most FMCGs, at least in an India context, have the concept of career paths and what you do first, or
Yeah.
over the years, what are the stints you necessarily need to do. So, as an example, typically one would say that in the early part of your career, you must explore different paths. So if I look at HR specifically, so one would say, okay, do sales HR, do factory or plant HR, and then do some kind of specialized roles like CNB or talent management, etc. And that's like the first part of your career.
Yeah.
The second part of your career is when you start consolidating, saying, okay, what is it that I really want to focus on? Do I want to be an HR partner, go on the CHRO track, or do I want to become a specialist in any of these areas? I do feel that in the current context, a lot of this of looking at career paths in a traditional way of doing the right ticks, that this role gives you this, that role gives you that, and hence you must have a combination, I feel is being rewritten. In the past, we would have said that you're not going to become an HR head if you don't have a sales and a manufacturing and an HQ kind of an experience with some. I think a lot of people who are heads now or are CXOs now have helped to rewrite some of those rules and said that irrespective of where you come from, right, as long as you are bringing your strengths to the table, you can relook at that. But I think, more than roles, the early part of the career is very, very important to have the right set of values, in terms of how are you doing things, right? Are you, like I was saying earlier, following through? Are you getting into the basics? Are you understanding the fundamentals? Because I think the issue that I have seen is that if you don't do the ground level jobs when you're starting your career and you say, oh, but I want to be in strategy, I want to do only HQ kind of work, right? Actually, once you've grown a little, right, you can never go back and do the ground level jobs. You can always do strategy all your life. I'm a little bit of old world person in that. The only thing that I feel, like I said, is that whichever industry or whatever kind of roles you pick up, you've got to get your hands dirty at the beginning of your career.
Right.
That is very important, right? Whichever role you may pick up. Because later on in your career, you will not do that. And you will never be good at a job till you actually know what it entails. At the ground level. So I think focusing on that is much more important than what kind of role are you in. Specifically that you have to do TA or you have to do compensation. I think you can pick any of that, but be really good and understand what happens there at least.
Right. Just the foundation, just like setting that right, and then kind of going right. And Bhavya, like because you mentioned TA and you mentioned something about compensation as well. So I believe there are different types of roles that you can have within the HR industry, right? Can you just maybe shed some light on each of these different roles? Like what does it entail? And
so there's a variety, right? Let me start with the HR generalist role, which basically means you're an HR partner, right? I mean, in an organization, you have employees, you have leaders, managers, etc. So basically, you're the person who's kind of front-ending the function. Right? So, I mean, as an HR partner, you basically understand what is the business, what is the interface of the business and the requirement of the business from a people, capability, structure perspective, and to kind of bring all of that together to your business. So you're the front face of the function in that sense. You're the front ending function to the business, and I think that role, it's extremely important to firstly understand the business. What is it that they need? You're not existing independently, right? So it's very important to put business teams at the center of it and say, what do I need to deliver in terms of value? And then go back to each of the COEs and say, this is what my business needs, and make that happen, right? And in that, there may be some back and forth in terms of saying that while business wants this, from an HR or from a people perspective, this is what I think the principle should be. So there will be a balancing, of what is the expertise that you bring in from an HR perspective and what the business wants. But the starting point always has to be what is it that is needed,
Yeah.
and then you bring your expertise to that and deliver a solution. So I think that's at a fundamental level, that would be HR business partnering. And then I think we get to all the various specializations, right? You could be in compensation and benefits, where obviously, I mean, your role is, again, I think, to understand what is the lay of the land, right? What are the kind of jobs that exist in your organization versus other organizations in the same market? What is our compensation philosophy? What are we saying? Not every organization will say that, I'm paying the best in the market. Even if you're saying that I'm the median paymaster, what does it mean? Then similarly, what do benefits mean to you as an organization? Do you want to be forward in the market and say, I'm going to lay out what benefits look like in this space? Or you are saying that, no, as an organization, I want to be balanced. But here is what I deliver from a value perspective and benefits perspective to my employees. So both at a monetary level, which is your compensation, as well as at a benefits level, how is it that you want to place yourself? What is my USP in this regard? I think anybody working here, again, it's a lot of stakeholder management, a lot of analytical ability, a lot of also, I think, being able to put trends together and say that what is it that will make sense from a business perspective, as well as, from a functional compensation perspective, to deliver value. Because at the end of the day, it will come back to how much are you spending, and is that kind of, making sense from an org perspective? How do you layer your compensation and benefits? Then I think is talent acquisition, which is also very critical, which again, comes from a deep understanding of what is the business, what are the kind of capabilities that you need, how do they exist in the market, right? And how do we develop an employer brand or an employer value proposition which is attractive to the right set of people? Acquisition is not about attracting everybody, right? It's about knowing who are the set of people I'm trying to attract, and am I actually attractive to them, right? Whatever I am saying, or whatever I'm putting out as a proposition in the market, is it really what that set of people is looking for? So say, for example, if I'm saying that gender diversity is very important for me, if I'm saying that I want to hire a lot from campuses, if I want to hire tech talent, or if I want to hire manufacturing talent, what does that set of people look like outside? And whatever I put out in terms of the job, the compensation, the contours of the role, the locations, is that attractive? Right? And am I being able to sell my organization to that set of individuals, right? To cater to the capabilities that my organization needs, not just today, but also tomorrow. Growth. So I think, again, another very strategic function from an organization perspective. Then if I look at another vertical, which is very critical, is talent management, right? Which looks at, once you're inside the organization, different types of people in my organization, how do I look at them? What are the kind of programs, that I have to sort of manage that talent literally, which means that if I have a cohort view of people, right, saying that for me, the managerial layer is very critical. So how is it that I look at the managerial layer differently, build their capability, have programs for them that help them progress, grow, etc. If I say, again, let's go back to a common topic, say gender diversity. Women are very important, and I want that cohort to grow in my organization. Am I actually providing them with things that will help them grow, providing them mentorship, providing them platforms for growth, etc. If I say that, the senior layer in the organization, which is leadership, right, is obviously very critical for every organization. What is it that I'm planning for them? And talent management pretty much kind of brings everything together, right? From a compensation perspective, what are you giving to them? From a leadership perspective, how are you building them up? Similarly, from an experience perspective, what are you giving to that set of people? So it's really very holistic in its approach, and you've got to have that soft plus hard view, of saying that, how's the experience building, and then equally, what are the concrete things that you're giving to them? So talent management. And then I think learning and development, again, very important, which is very critical from a future building perspective, right? Today, what are the capabilities that my organization needs? But at the same time, most organizations today, right, will have transformation as an agenda. It's not a new word in any organization. I think everybody talks about change, transformation, that, who you are today is not the same as tomorrow. We need different capabilities. I think all of that talk, right, if you were to just filter that, it basically means that all the capabilities that I have today are not the capabilities I will need tomorrow, which means that then, what are we doing to ensure that we're delivering the today, but we are also building ourselves for the tomorrow, right? And I think leadership development, and this is one area which is like fundamentally changed over the last couple of years with COVID, etc. Right? I mean, earlier we had a lot of aspirational value around 2-3 day programs, 1 week programs, where people would sit, etc. Now I think everybody's acknowledged that all learning is bite-sized, so the challenge is on you. Now you tell me, I want you to teach me everything, but also make it short and interesting, and also something that I can see on my phone. So it's a very challenging space, but I think also very interesting and evolving at the speed of light, I think. So yeah, these are some of the broad areas, and then obviously there are smaller parts as well. That helps, Nitya.
I'm glad you really went into the depth of each, and I'm sure that'll help a lot of the freshers and the younger section of the audience as well. But do you think it's easy to kind of switch between these roles? Let's say I start off as a part of the talent acquisition team, and then I want to move towards compensation and benefits. Like, is that doable? And if it is, it's like, what does it take for a person to kind of switch between roles?
In my opinion, yes. I think that people switch all the time. And I think we should also encourage people to switch all the time, because, and I have personally gained from that over the years, right? And because I have consciously like moved back and forth and done various things. I think it's definitely possible, and organizations also encourage it a lot. I feel like all the new age organizations look at it in that way. The only thing that is required is that you do need to have learning agility. You do need to put in that additional effort. You cannot come from saying, like, if you've already got a certain level of experience, right? That experience obviously was in a very different field. You've got to be willing to, be humble and say, look, on this, I don't know anything. So please tell me from scratch.
Right.
I think so that amount of humility and learning agility is very important. And you have to accept mentally that, okay, you may be, a great expert in another area, but this you know nothing about. Right. So be willing to unlearn some things that you may have learned in the, and be open, to understanding that. I think that's an important trait. The other one is that I think it's also important to know why do you want to do those things, right? One of the most common reasons is that you want to have a rounded experience overall, which is a good logic, right? It's a good argument to have, especially in the first part of your career, right? First 10 years of your career, it's important to learn different things. But I think then it goes back to saying that, what is it that you're willing to put in? Right? You've never done compensation. You're not sure that you're somebody who's very comfortable with numbers, but then also that means that you have to invest in yourself. Because somebody is also taking that risk on giving you that role, right? So you've also got to then prove that to yourself and the other person that I'm going to go through with it. So it will take an effort. Be willing to put in that effort is what I would say.
Right. But it is doable. Luckily, at the end of the day, if the efforts are put in. Great. I wonder, what are the challenges in the industry, and specifically some of the lesser known ones that freshers can be a little bit more aware about?
If you're in a very traditional organization, a lot of the times people may mistake your role as being an overlap with admin, right? And do a lot of those kind of things. I think it's very important for you to be very clear about, what is it that you're supposed to do, but at the same time, what is it that you're not supposed to do and is not your responsibility, especially in the early part of your career. It's very easy to get confused and be in that state of saying that, okay, if this is the expectation, let me actually do it. Right? And the second one, which is more behavioral, in terms of how do you manage yourself. I think as an HR professional, you have to be very comfortable with maybe not being the most popular person and willing to say no, because I feel like there are a lot of things, and at the end of the day, in an organization, if you were to really go deep, every problem is a person's problem, will be a people problem, right?
Yep.
Because if you're not delivering on business, then or maybe the right talent is not there, the capability is not there, we did not hire in time, or we did not train the people in time, or maybe that we're not people are not getting incentives, hence they are demotivated, there's attrition. At the end of the day, every business problem, right, because it's being delivered by people, can
Yep.
be people problem. But I
Yep.
think you have to be very clear about what are the problems that you're going to take up and solve, and what
Yep.
is it that you have to work with the leaders and managers and is their responsibility.
Right.
So at the early part of your career, I feel that that becomes very difficult, and people try to get into everything just
Yeah.
because it's coming to you. You feel like, oh my God, this is my responsibility. And
Yeah.
over the years, you realize that what is the value that you're bringing to the table, and where is it that I draw the line and say that, look, this is what a leader needs to own,
Yeah.
and why we're there to provide you the expertise from an HR perspective, but we cannot drive it for you. You will have to drive it for your team.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. And by just talking about challenges and maybe something more specific to you, I feel like all these buzzwords, right? Inclusivity and diversity, gender empowerment, all of that, which are very important issues, I think get thrown around very easily nowadays. So how do you kind of go about embedding these concepts into the culture of the organization without it, seeming as though, oh, you're just chasing after a certain buzzword or a certain trend in the industry?
I think, I would I would like to believe that we have, as an industry in general, right? I mean, we've done enough work to emphasize and re-emphasize on what is the business case, right? So that I do feel that across different organizations, right, and some may be really ahead, some may be a little behind, but in general, I would say that we have kind of established the fact that there is a business case to it. You have diversity, and then zooming into gender diversity, that it is critical, it adds value, etc., etc. And whatever is the more specific business case for you, you have established that. I think once that's there, in my belief, while numbers are important, and in corporates, everything that needs to be driven gets drilled down to numbers, saying that, okay, I mean, where were we and where do we need to be, and what percentage growth is that? And I think that's important in terms of saying what's the representation like. But I have always believed, Nitya, that the I part of it, which is inclusion and behaviors, is far more important than the numbers.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you focus on the inclusion bit of it, the numbers will happen. People are intelligent enough to kind of get it, but effort has to be on saying that what are the right behaviors? What is the language that you're using at the workplace? Are you actually, are you being true inclusive? Forget about men and women. Even within men, I think there are so many things, I feel very passionately about this topic. Like the ways that we've looked at men and women have changed drastically over the years, and in both the organizations that I've spent time in, right? I feel like there are equal number of men who are uncomfortable with using abuses, with smoking, with going out in the evening. But we've grown up with these stereotypes of men saying, "Oh my God, men, they're going to be very good at managing their emotions. They're okay with abusing. If you use any kind of language, they're okay." But nowadays, it's not at all the case. I mean, there are equal number of men who come up and say that, "I'm not okay with it. Why is he talking to me like this?" And equally, there are women who say that I have no problem. I actually don't care what is the kind of language that he uses. As long as I'm able to do my work, I kind of ignore it.
Right.
And I think that's right. But all I'm saying is that all the stereotypes that we've lived with over the years are not necessarily true. And hence, inclusion is very important to understand that you are treating the other person as the person wants to be treated, not as you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
That's very important. And as organizations, I also believe that unless you consciously include, you consciously exclude. That always happens. We're just growing up. I mean, we've grown up like that in families, etc. And I think, which is why I feel like no matter how much buzz there is around percentage of women and etc., I feel like the more work that we need to do is on the inclusion side of D&I compared to the diversity side of D&I, because I feel like it will fix a lot more things than just gender representation.
Right.
It's about treating each person uniquely and
Yeah.
how they want to be treated.
Yep. Yep.
So that's my personal view on the topic.
Right. And I feel like again it just goes back to the idea of putting in the effort, right? The effort, I guess, is just kind of the foundational bit to all
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. And I think you have to be very consistent. You cannot be on and off that, okay, I mean, I had to reach a certain percentage, it's done,
Yeah.
and now we're great.
Right.
Nothing like that. I think
Mhm.
every organization today, at least in the India context, is saying and putting it out there that we want to hire more women.
Right.
We are looking at a more diverse workforce. But I think deeper than that, what is it that you're trying to actually help these women grow, and
Right.
equally at the same time not alienating your men? I think men are a big part of this DNI journey. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot say that I want to build my women. That's not true. I think ultimately the goal is to build a balanced workforce.
Right.
That's the goal, right? I
Right.
mean, it's not about preferring men or women.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
only thing is, like I said, if you're not consciously building
Mm-hmm.
programs and inclusion in the workplace, you will most likely have more men, which is what
Right.
we've seen over the years.
Yeah.
The goal is definitely to build a more balanced workplace and not be favorable to either.
Right. Right. But Bhavya, do you think there are any specific actionable steps that we should take to support women in the workplace?
Yeah, I think at Lenovo we have quite a few interventions, right? Like I
Mhm.
said, I spoke a lot about inclusion, and I think there we partner with a fairly famous but very good person called Dr. Neeru, right, who works in the space of inclusion and just talking about gender intelligence. So
Uh-huh.
going beyond, just that, and saying that what does it mean,
Mm-hmm.
and what is the value that both genders bring to the table. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really helped us. We've done multiple programs. I think other than that, what really helps women or any minority group, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in this case, women are generally a minority, even if it's
Right.
25%, 30%.
Mm-hmm.
I think is also representation and mentorship. When you
Mm-hmm.
see people at the senior level, you
Right.
kind of, it helps you build a mental framework
Yeah.
that, yes, I can look forward to that. So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
role modeling mentorship at the workplace,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
do need to do that consciously, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
I think even in terms of looking at some of the things that do hold women back, I think
Mm-hmm.
having some programs around that is critical in terms of what are the capabilities that we normally see
Mm-hmm.
that women may hold themselves back on, or things that need to be built in them in terms of fortitude or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on that is very important.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, I mean, in all of this, whatever programs you may do for women, unless you have men being an active part and ally and kind of being out there to sponsor it, including the leadership team, it's very difficult.
Then, Bhavya, I'm just going to end this section with my final question.
Sure.
So, this is about uh, any young fresher again, right? Someone in college who's kind of on the fence. Maybe they're trying to decide whether they're the right fit to become a HR professional. So, do you have any advice for them that can push them towards either side of the fence?
Yeah, I would say HR is on the right side of the fence since I'm there. So, but jokes aside, I think I would say that it's important to do research, right? Especially if you're in that stage where you're confused. I think it's important to talk to people who are in the domain. So, very important to do that. I feel like you should reach out to people who are doing those jobs that you think you're going to like, to
Uh-huh.
ask them what does their day, week, month look like? What are the key things that they indulge in?
Mhm.
It's important to have those conversations. I
Yeah.
think the other thing is also to do a bit of self reflection in terms of saying that, why is it that I feel like I'll be good at this. I mean, have I got any past experiences, even if it is not from a work perspective, even if it
Mhm.
is projects that you've done, or maybe college things that you've been a part of, events, etc. Why
Uh-huh.
is it that you think you'll be good at that? So self-reflection, which is more
Mhm.
internal, and then also reaching out to people, talking to them,
Mhm.
understanding what is it that it actually means. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Don't get colored by just flashy things about a profession that seem very attractive.
Right. Uh-huh.
I think many a times when we're younger we tend to do that.
Yeah.
They just decide at a very superficial level, but I think talking to actual professionals helps a lot.
Right. If I were on the fence, I think I'd be pretty convinced after your pitch. But we'll play again like a quick game called Never Have I Ever. Have you
Okay.
have you ever played this one?
I haven't played it, but I know, and there's a show as well by that name, right?
Yes.
So
So I'm going to read out a situation, and you can, if you've lived through it, so you say I have, and if you haven't,
okay,
then you say I haven't,
yeah, sure,
right? So, and this is, I'm starting off very easy.
yeah,
Have you
hopefully.
ever sent an email without the attachment?
Yes,
You have.
yes,
And who hasn't?
yeah, exactly. Who hasn't?
Bombed an interview more than once in your career.
See, I mean, with my career, you can see that not like I've given many interviews, but yes, I have.
It's good to know. It's
Yeah, yeah.
that we're all in the same boat.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
the slightly controversial one. Have you ever indulged in some good old office gossip?
Yeah, I have to be candid. I don't think office gossip is bad as long as it's not particularly negative, and you don't
Yeah.
mean it in a deeply negative, harming sort of way.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, I think, yeah, it's good to have a chat around office and good to be connected with people apart from just working relationships. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, great. Have you ever entered a call or some kind of an online meeting slightly late just to avoid small talk?
No, actually, this I haven't done because
Mhm.
I don't mind small talk. Like I'm quite fond of interacting with people,
Yeah.
talking to them, and in fact, would do the opposite. I might go up to a place 5 minutes early just
Mm-hmm.
to get to know the people and talk to them a bit to understand, what is it
Yeah.
that I'm in for. I
Mm-hmm.
would do that than the other.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, have you ever cried or just been extremely upset over a mistake that you've made at work?
Yes, absolutely. I think all of us, I mean, I can talk about myself, right? I'm very comfortable with my emotions, and I have cried plenty of times. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't feel like there's anything wrong about it. I'm quite comfortable with expressing myself on all parts of the spectrum as far as emotions are concerned. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, as long as you don't let your emotions take over eventually from a decision making perspective, I think
Yeah.
it's perfectly okay to be expressive at the workplace,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, emotions are a big part of who we are, and
Yeah.
unless you bring your whole self to work, you're always sort of uncomfortable. So yes, I have, and multiple times, and
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with that also.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I hope everyone can hear that and can really, really reflect on that as well. And finally, have you ever had your child walk into or just interrupt one of your video calls? Important video calls.
All the time, like through COVID. In fact, it was a struggle the other way. Like, I
Mhm.
would that there was a call where she wouldn't disturb, but I think, I have a very understanding set of colleagues, team members, etc., who've been
Yeah.
very let's say accommodative, of my child's behavior around me.
Yeah.
On a more serious note, Nitya, I know, I mean, this was the fun part, but I'll still say that, as leaders specifically,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important for us to show our vulnerable sides.
Mm-hmm.
uh, all of us, when we were working in COVID, and I believe this, right? Like, nobody has perfect homes. Everybody has like a pressure cooker at the back. Like in India, we cook in pressure cookers,
Yeah.
and then you have whistles which make a lot of noise, right? You have the bell ringing, you might
Mm-hmm.
have a pet, you have a child, you have parents, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, if you show your vulnerable sides to people, people also feel comfortable, like, okay, everybody's going to see me. So I don't need to feel that, in my house, I need a perfect spot where there will be no sound, nobody interrupting me, because nobody has a house like that. That's the truth,
That's true.
right? So
Yeah.
it's very important for all of us at a fundamental level to believe we're all human. We live in the same kind of houses with the same things cooking, and our parents always screaming and at the
Yeah.
back and asking various things of us, and our children running around. So I think it's important that all of
Mhm.
us relate to each other at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I mean, I did have my pressure cooker go off right before this call.
Yeah,
So I can totally relate.
yeah,
But thanks for bringing that up. Like, I think it's an important point that people should just realize, because we're all living
yeah,
similar lives. So it's bound to happen, right? It's not something
yeah,
that we should feel too worried about.
yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, so okay, great. So now we're at the final segment of this episode. And I think we've got a lot of insightful advice from you, which has been lovely. But I do think that in addition to advice, we should, like you said, we should self-reflect and introspect. So I'd love it if you could just, leave the audience with a question, food for thought for them, so they can kind of self-reflect and just really listen to their thoughts and then make decisions about their career?
I think what I'll go with is something that, like I said, I think about a lot personally, right? And over the period of my career, I've thought about a lot. I fundamentally believe, Nitya, that your strengths make you who you are, and your strengths really drive your success. While you should work on your areas of development, you absolutely should, so that they don't become derailers, but they also become your strengths. So you have to know what your strengths are and kind of ride on that.
Yeah.
And in line with that, I think I always think about what is it that you're bringing to the table. Why should somebody have you versus anybody else?
Yeah.
Right. I think that is something I do think about myself a lot.
Yeah.
And we should all think about also, I feel.
Definitely. I think this evening, this is something I'm going to ponder over, definitely. And I'm sure the listeners are going to do the same. So thank you so much, Bhavya. This was so fun, honestly. And I think it was informative and fun at the same time. So I'm glad you were able to join this episode. And just, I'm so appreciative of your time. Thanks so much.
Oh, it was great fun, Nitya. Thank you for making it so light-hearted and yet meaningful.